have them here. Thank you, Mindy.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our May CRDC meeting on sanitation and sanitation initiatives here in Chelsea. Thank you, Mindy, for your help with the Zoom. Good evening, everyone. Charles and Jerry, it's good to see you. Bert, it's good to see you as well. We're looking forward to having this meeting in terms of the sanitation issues that are going on in our city, our area. So I'm grateful to have our District 3 council member, Mr. Eric Botcher, and our Department of Sanitation Manhattan liaison, Ms. Marissa Yanni, is also here to share with us some of the sanitation initiatives. So with that, I'm gonna pass it to my leader here, Mindy. Do you have anything you want to add?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm good to go.
Okay. Thank you. I see Mr. Bacha is off camera right now. Eric, are you ready? Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm ready. Do you hear me?
Not you, Mr. L'Oreal, Mr. Bacha.
Oh, okay.
A few housekeeping rules. Can everybody put themselves on mute? What we're going to do, if we have time with Mr. Bacha, we're going to raise hands for any questions that you might have for him. We're going to give at least 2 minutes for question and answer. So with that, Mr. L'Oreal, you're not on mute. Thank you. With that, we begin with you, Mr. Bacha. Good evening.
Hello, everyone. I am so happy to be here with so many friends. Some of my favorite people are right here. And it's really great to be here at CRDC to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is sanitation. And I want to start by talking about why I've made sanitation one of my top priorities and why I talk about it a lot. And one of the reasons is because I believe that it's far more than an aesthetic issue. I think that the recovery of New York City, the economic recovery of New York City, our comeback from this crisis depends on our ability to get a handle on many of the issues that have really been affecting people. And sanitation is one of those issues, quality of life, sanitation. The pandemic changed the world in so many ways. One of the ways that it changed the world is you could move around more frequently now. Work is more flexible. There's a lot more competition between New York and other places. And people are in decision-making mode right now. Are we going to stay in New York? Is it time to leave? Are we going to keep our business here? Or are we going to pack up? Should we visit New York or should we not? And if New York is filthy, if we have overflowing waste baskets on the corner, if there is a trash explosion every time you walk outside, if you've got rats scurrying over your feet when you walk down the highway, and I see Joanne making a face because it's disgusting. And those kind of things are factors in people's decision-making. And it really is harming our city's recovery. It's an environmental issue. We are poisoning our oceans, our streams, and our forests and our planet with plastic, with single-use plastic. We are sending biodegradable, compostable waste to landfills, which becomes carbon. We are way behind other parts of the world with our sustainability practices here in New York. And it's a public health issue. It's not healthy to have trash all over the place like we have now. And also, quite frankly, as a New Yorker, this is one of the things that really ticks me off, because I've lived in New York for 21 years only, compared to a lot of people, but I don't remember ever seeing New York this filthy in my 21 years here. And in a city of New York, like New York City, with a $100 billion annual budget, why can't we pick up the trash? I think that we should be able to expect our city to pick up the trash. This might be a bold statement, but I think the city should make sure that the corner baskets don't overflow every day. That's common sense to me. So when I ran for city council last year, I came out with a sanitation platform with a number of steps, a number of recommendations in it, and I'll put it in the chat. One of those things that I called for was for a restoration of sanitation funding to pre-pandemic levels. Because when the pandemic came, by the way, I know Marissa Yanni's here. The Department of Sanitation is fantastic. They haven't been given the resources that they need to keep up with the sanitation issues in New York. So that's a thumbs up, Marissa. I just want to make sure you know that that's why I'm talking about funding, because the sanitation department, the headcount has been cut. And let's just take as an example, the corner basket service. Corner basket service was cut significantly from in 2020, when the pandemic came. We cut the corner basket service from over 700 truck routes a week to over 200 truck routes a week. And that made sense when everyone was in quarantine, when we didn't have tourists, we didn't have office workers filling up the corner. The next year, that was only restored to 550 truck routes a week, roughly. That's not enough. We need to restore the funding to pre-pandemic levels. And I and my colleagues in the city council are asking the mayor in the budget to bring the number of truck routes back to make sure that those corner baskets don't overflow. The mayor in the preliminary budget didn't have that funding there. The council made a formal ask. The council puts out a budget response, and then the mayor responds again, and the mayor still didn't put the funding there for the increased basket. The mayor did allocate funding for a few things, like a pilot of containerized waste, a different way that we can put out our trash. Instead of putting it out on trash collection day in piles on the sidewalk, let's try to put it in a containerized fashion, something I called for last year. That's good. We want that pilot to happen, and it is happening. The mayor also announced another thing that I had proposed in my sanitation plan, which is smaller street sweepers to cover bike lanes. Because bike lanes in our district, sometimes a street sweeper can fit, sometimes they can't. An example is 6th Avenue. 6th Avenue in the 20s, by the end of the week, it's filled with trash in the gutter because the street sweepers can't fit. So I last year suggested that they get smaller street sweepers like they have in the Hudson River Park bikeway. And the mayor did announce that a couple of weeks ago. So that's coming. Another good thing the mayor announced a couple of weeks ago, and you may not like this if you park on the street, but street sweeping is going to return to 2 days a week. during the pandemic, street sweeping was reduced. Alternate side parking was reduced to 1 day a week. So people wouldn't have to leave their homes. That's back when we didn't want people to leave their apartments. It stayed that way. It's been 2 years now. And the problem with 1 day a week street sweeping is that a lot of people know that, and I've heard this directly from friends of mine who do it. If they don't move their car at all, 4 tickets a month is far less than a garage. So they won't even do the 1 day a week thing. And look, alternate side parking is a little bit of a, it's silly how everyone does this like dance where they get in their car and they kind of wait in the street and then they pull in at the last minute and then, but the street sweepers need to get through. So what's been happening is the street sweepers haven't been able to get through at all in many instances. So that's going to come back 2 days a week starting in July. That's important because each street sweeper at the end of a shift has like 1,500 pounds of trash in. I mean, these things pick up a lot of trash off the street. That's been left on the street. And the mayor also announced a composting thing, initiative with schools, which is good. What the mayor didn't put back is the mayor didn't increase the corner basket pickup. And also the curbside compost program has not been restored. If you live in Penn South, you remember the curbside compost program that we had for a few years. That is where they will pick up your compost along with your recycling and your landfill bound waste. And that increased in buildings like Penn South, it increased composting significantly. And a lot of people want that back. It was cut during the pandemic, restored to some districts, but not all. That program has been put on hold. The expansion of that program, we're calling for citywide composting, citywide compost program, because there was a problem with that program and that it was only in some districts, not all. And there was an equity issue. There's lots of council members who are like, wait a minute, my district didn't even have that before. Why are we pushing in the budget to have that brought back? And my district didn't even have it. Why our district, our people want it and need it. So we have to figure out the policy side of that. You don't want to mandate composting citywide if people aren't going to participate in it, because the recycling rate is only 15%. I mean, the recycling, that's a whole nother issue that needs a lot of attention. So where we are in the budget process is the budget gets passed in June. The city council has to the end of June to pass the budget. And there's a negotiation between the speaker's office and the city council and the mayor, where speaker has a budget negotiation team, and it's like a ton of priorities. Lots of people want money for lots of different amazing causes. I happen to think that addressing the sanitation crisis should be a top priority. So I'm really pushing, and we had another press conference today with the chair of the sanitation committee, whose name is Sandy Nurse. We're calling on the city to fund sanitation. And I'm really hoping that we can get this done. I'm looking for a good article. Okay, here's a article from the Village Sun that I'm going to put in the chat with my sanitation plan. Because in addition to increasing the funding, I've called for sanitation strike teams that move in real time. In real time, they respond to 311 calls about overflowing trash cans and stuff. So they're roving the borough, so we don't have to wait for the next day for another shift. I had a conversation with the commissioner, and I'm really pushing those. I also have called for the expansion of business improvement districts. If you live in our area, you probably know we have a Madison Square bid, a Flatiron bid, I should say. We've got a meat packing bid. There's a Hell's Kitchen Hudson Yard bid. And we've also got the Village Alliance, the Soho Alliance, we got the Times Square Alliance, the Columbus Avenue. So we have lots of bids, and what they do is they basically take a fee from property owners and use that to hire supplemental services of all kinds, including sanitation. And in our district, you can see the difference from one side of the street to the other when there's a bid. They've got new trash cans, like hanging flower baskets on the light posts, and sanitation folks coming. They'll often hire like the Doe Fund or other kind of organizations that will be sweeping and emptying the waste baskets. And if a community wants a bid, I will support it. And there has been a on and off effort over the years to get a bid in Chelsea. It's a huge movement to get those, but I want to help if folks are interested. Hell's Kitchen could really use a bid. 9th Avenue, highly trafficked area. That will help a lot in addressing sanitation conditions. I'm also asking the city to think big. Why don't we look into the use of pneumatic tubes? Other cities around the world use pneumatic tube technology, particularly in large complexes where the waste could be taken to a centralized location and picked up in one location. Roosevelt Island, Roosevelt Island has pneumatic tubes. It's kind of like, when they built it in like the 70s, back when we thought that, we were living in the future, everything, they're trying these like futuristic 1970s things, but they were smart because on Roosevelt Island, that whole island has pneumatic tubes. So they have their trash goes to like underground places. So they don't have trash out on the sidewalks in big piles. Now, it's a big, in a city like New York, the idea of putting a tube system everywhere, it's a big lift, but let's try it. And I support the idea of piloting it underneath the High Line. So it serves up and down the High Line. There's an organization pushing for that. Let's not think small, let's think big. Getting back to what we're working on this year, I've made a big push to have the amount of dog waste on the sidewalk addressed. The city has not been enforcing the pooper scooper laws. 2 years ago, the city issued 0 tickets in the whole year for pooper scooper law. They're $250 tickets. Last year, 0 tickets. So we had a press conference, some of you were there, calling on the city. Actually, the Department of Sanitation was there, so thanking the Department of Sanitation to agree to put out inspectors in our community to issue the tickets. And this has been one of like the least controversial things ever. Normally when you talk about like fines, there's always someone who's like, you know, you shouldn't be fining people. People really don't have much sympathy for people who don't pick up after their dogs, because it's just like a jerk move, and it could really screw up someone's day. You could miss an interview, you could miss class, an exam, you could be late for work. I mean, it could ruin a pair of shoes. You know, it's really bad, and it just drags the city down at a time where we can't afford to be dragged down, and we've been dragged down enough. We need to get a handle on this stuff. So I have been told that there are tickets being written and that we're going to see an uptick. At the same time, an uptick in enforcement. At the same time, we put out a public service announcement that you may have seen on the Link NYC kiosks. There is no poop fairy. There's not going to be a magic fairy picking up after your dog if you don't pick up. So there's no poop fairy flying around picking up after your dog. You've got to do it. You know, please pick up after your dog. So that's been that campaign. And I'm really hoping that we'll see a difference on the sidewalk. And, you know, people are like, why are you worrying about things like dog poop? This is what people complain to our office about. You know, the city council should be concerned with the administration of government services and conducting oversight over our city agencies. And when our city agencies, you know, need to be pushed and prodded a little, let's do it. We have an amazing Department of Sanitation. You're going to hear from Marissa Yanni in a little bit. I really like the new sanitation commissioner, Jessica Tisch. We had a great conversation, and she, I think, is going to do a great job. We had an oversight hearing with her, and she was extremely knowledgeable for someone who's only been there a few weeks. And I think that we're going to get a lot done on this issue. I could talk about single-use plastics. We have to get a handle on single-use plastics. We have to get our recycling rates up. We only recycle like 17% of what we could be recycling we're failing badly at recycling. And, you know, ultimately, I think, you know, you could do all the public service announcements you want, but ultimately we might have to charge for landfill bound waste. Think about it. If you charge people for the waste that's going to the landfill, that's when they'll start taking recycling out of those bags. So I'm going to be speaking out about that, and people might, you know, be annoyed by it because, you know, we're already getting charged, you know, tax for this and charge for that, and now you want to charge us for garbage. But I see Joanne's got her comment in the chat there. I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Joanne. That's why we love you. If we charge for landfill bound waste, I think you would see the recycling and the composting rates go way up. So you'll be hearing more about that from me. So this is just a little bit about this topic that we could talk about tonight. I will take your questions now. And I really want to thank you for having me. I want to thank Luana. I'm so excited to work with Luana as the president of CRDC, with Luana and then Charles as the district leader, and folks like Mindy and Joanne and Alan and Michael and Bert and Ryan. You know, it's a dream team at CRDC, and I'm really excited for this next year. What the heck are we going to do with these elections, though? My gosh. Maybe we could talk about that after we talk about trash tonight. After we're done talking trash. Crazy times that we live in on a number of different levels. But I want to thank you for having me, and I will take your questions.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Great job. You covered so many different topics. It's amazing how much you can squeeze in that short time. You definitely are getting good at this.
Thank you.
And we must say happy belated birthday, by the way.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
I saw the video of your birthday party, and I wish I was there. You look like you had a smashing time.
We sounded good. If you close your eyes, it was like just like the record, right? Right, Tira?
It was awesome.
We did actually sound, we're getting better. You should have heard us a year ago. Well, I'm getting better. Tira was good. She started out good.
We have
Okay, great.
hands up. I'm gonna,
We have-
Bert and Phyllis, and I'm putting in the chat for the order.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Robert.
Okay, I had a quick question. I don't know if it's applicable or not as far as the dog thing, dog excrement. Is Penn South has a number of security people. Are they authorized as special police to issue tickets to non-Penn South residents that come through and make waste? And if not, maybe they should be. We should at least inquire into that, and perhaps they even should get some compensation for that. At least Penn South should, for funding our security staff, which costs us considerable for that. That would be good. I'm also curious, how do you plan to address the waste on the sidewalks? Because I know it disturbs a lot of people like you. I get complaints all the time.
Interesting question about Penn South security. I do know that some residential buildings in New York, get this, when you move in, they make you submit your dog's DNA so they can test the dog and find out who the guilty culprits are. I'm not suggesting that Penn South do it.
No.
I'm also not suggesting that Penn South doesn't do it. I'm just saying that they do it. I wouldn't be surprised if the security, knew someone at Penn South was, chronically doing that they couldn't take some action. I don't know if they'd be able to do a fine, but they could certainly, take it up administratively with Penn South. I don't know what the bylaws say.
Oh, I do. What they can do is if you're a Penn South cooperator, they can issue a I don't want to call it a fine because that's the wrong word, but they can assess you a charge. But what if you're in one of the adjoining communities and you have the habit of walking through Penn South with your dog because there's a lot of grass here, and it's the non-Penn South residents I'm more concerned with, not the Penn South ones. We can take care of that on some level.
So if there is an area that you're seeing chronic problems with that, you can let me know and we'll have the Department of Sanitation direct the canine inspectors to that area. I've seen quite a bit on 25th between 8th and 9th on the south side of the street there. Whenever you get scaffolding and it's kind of like an out of the way place, but you let me know what you see.
Yeah, the Penn South people tend to do it on the grass because they don't think anybody notices or cares. It's the people not from Penn South that use other hidden areas. But I'm only speculating. I'm not, I don't know for sure, but I'm just curious. But the second part of the question is, how do you address cleaning up the sidewalks? I mean, I think it's something that's good, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Very happy you mentioned it. I hope you get better with that cough too. We want to keep you around.
I know it's not even a cough. I'm just losing my voice from talking so much.
Yeah,
we don't want enough water or tea.
Yes, so do that. Okay, hot tea with honey.
I promise.
Hot tea. We want to keep you around.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you. Okay, that's enough for me, I
you.
guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Person is Bert?
Yep. Eric, I just want to thank you for all the initiatives in sanitation. You're right out there. All, it seems to me, in the right direction. I particularly like the idea of the strike teams. I don't know how we'll organize that. And I do want to say, being transparent, I do have a professional relationship with sanitation.
I know that.
Okay, but I want to put it out there because what I'm going to say next is pre-pandemic truck shifts, truck routes are not necessarily the gold standard. We do want to get back to where they were, but if we can remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we also had waste paper baskets overflowing. So we needed more back then as well. And there may need a reorganization of truck routes and frequencies of pickup. It's great that we use that as a goal, but I would say that should be an intermediary goal. That there should be something longer down the road, further down the road. And, you know, sanitation is, unlike many other kinds of services in the city, well, most of the services actually are labor intensive. So when we're talking about increasing this or that pickup, we're talking about workers. And we got to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And that's it. We got to be cognizant that it's going to cost us.
Right.
And we have to make choices. And it's not just, oh, we're going to have a strike force, or we're going to have people giving tickets for dog pooping. That's people
Yeah.
that may not be on board right now. There may have to be new hires.
Yeah.
I'm not using that as a reason against it. I just want people to be aware of that.
The financial impact of decisions and the trade-off needs to be considered at all times. It's not, if you spend $1 here, that's one less dollar that you can spend there. I happen to think that there should be a standard that needs to be met. And if that's what it costs, that's what it costs. You try to make sure it's efficient and well used.
Yes.
But when you're looking to save money, this isn't a place to do it. That's my view anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Phyllis?
Unmute.
Put yourself on mute, Phyllis. Unmute yourself. There you go.
I did it.
You did it.
12 bows. Thank you for all you do, Eric.
Yes.
And belated happy birthday.
Thank
And
you.
you're welcome. And warm salt gargles for your throat.
Salt?
Warm, salty.
Oh, that doesn't sound like it would taste very good.
Well, you don't taste it, you gargle it.
Oh,
It's a lot of warm, it works. It's good for the throat. But anyway.
okay. I'm gonna try it.
It's worth a try, for real. It's very good for the throat tissue. Anyway, that's Grandma Phyllis, okay?
I'm gonna try it.
One of my issues is concerns recycling. And my impression is that a lot of folks, residential and commercial, do not know what the current standard is for recycling, that there's been shifts and that people really, they're not aware of the nuances, the changes and the nuances. And I think there's an educational element that's missing. So.
Yeah, you're right. Actually,
Mr. Council person. How about,
Marissa Yanni, does Department of Sanitation offer like a recycling 101 workshop for people?
So no, hi everybody. So no, thank you, council member. Technically, no, I wouldn't say we have a workshop. We have that for many other programs. My team for community affairs, we do a lot of recycling 101 presentations at schools. They ask for us the most. It's kind of on a whoever wants us, we go to kind of situation. If you ask us to come, we'll come and do that. We talk about recycling every single tabling event that we do. And every time around the community, we bring our big decals that show you the different recycling for your green and blue waste streams. So it's not a formal kind of program, but every time we're out in the field, we talk about recycling.
That would be a cool Zoom to do. Maybe you and me could do a Zoom for the community about like, recycling 101.
and also to
Yeah.
include information in your newsletters,
Yeah,
that just make it part of like the air you breathe kind of thing, that it's always there.
yeah. I even sometimes I get confused all the time. You have like a battery or something. You're like, what am I supposed to do with this? So it's good information to put out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Eric. Charles?
Well, yeah. For Penn South, we have very strict dog rules that we adopted about 3 years ago, I think. It was formulated by the Pulp Council and then passed by the board. It's no, dogs can only take care of their business along the edges, not on the grass. And if they are caught, they are fined. The security guards have, under this agreement, have a right to issue a fine, and which then appear. If it's a Penn South person, obviously it's going to be on their maintenance. I don't know how. Unfortunately, I'm not sure it's been enforced that regularly and as strictly as it should be, but it's there.
What do you think about the DNA idea?
Which one?
The DNA testing.
Oh. As a dog walker, as a dog owner, rather, I say I'm appalled by people who leave their dog poop on the sidewalks, because it's a bad. It indicts us all, and it's unfair. I don't know if that's possible. People have to learn the responsibility. That's the most important thing. And if we really find them, the best way of learning responsibility.
So Charles endorsed testing for dog poop DNA. Here, everyone, you heard it here first.
Don't
Forensic scientist for that.
We'll call it the Charles Bear dog poop DNA bill.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we have another question from Diana. Hi,
Yes.
Diana.
Yeah, hi.
I'm sorry, Michael had his hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. About the DNA, that's okay. About the DNA, if you've been watching the Johnny Depp trial, there's a moment of levity there when he got obsessed about dog poop DNA. So it's real. It exists. It's a real thing. The other thing is, if you've been around here long enough, like I have, before Ed Koch's pooper scooper law came into effect, this place was a nightmare. You couldn't get out of a taxi cab, especially in the snow, for example. Cover stuff up. It ruined your day, ruined your shoes, just like you said. So it was way, way worse. It's not anything close to what it used to be.
Wow.
Nothing close to it. Oh, it was horrible. Anyway, the other thought I had about the baskets on the corners, there's a thing that you can't put your household waste or your commercial waste in those baskets. And that's something that tends to cause overflows. And I don't know the extent to which that's enforced. But if you go to certain places that are notorious for business owners, for example, to come out and dump stuff out there, sneak out there when nobody's looking. And all of a sudden the basket's empty and then it's full. And it's only one person who did it. So that's something that, you should keep an eye on. It's something that they should be alert to, That's just a thought.
Yep, that's a big reason why corner baskets overflow, is because if one person puts a bag of residential or commercial waste in it, it will overflow soon after. That's one reason why inspectors from DSNY issue tickets for people who do that. They kind of laid off on the tickets during the pandemic, but I've been told that they're out ticketing, and I know they're out ticketing because someone actually complained to our office that they got a ticket for it. So that actually was like good news to me, meaning, you shouldn't have done that. You can't. And what the ticket was for was this person had a bag of Chinese takeout from like the night before, brought it down, put it in the corner. And technically that is not the use of the corner basket. It's really for like incidental things on the go that you would otherwise, to prevent litter.
And there's a fine for it, Eric. I mean, this is.
There is, it's
finable.
like $150, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
I think Diana and then Kathy.
Yeah, it's a 7:44, Eric. So.
No worries.
Okay, great. Diana?
Yes, I wanted to get back to the recycling, and Eric, in the past a couple of months, I've almost sent you some photos. But I think some of our local electeds could reach out to Fresh Direct, which is not a company I use all the time, but sometimes I really need to for whatever reason. Anyway, I happen to have one right here. You see this box?
Yeah.
One container of cream cheese in the box. Last month, a 1/4 pound of sliced ham in the box. The month before that, I have photos, I can send them to you. So the way I think their operation works, because it seems to be like deli items, like one item in this box gets delivered to my door. Then what do you do with the box? This one I happened to have reused it, and I did send them a couple of months ago. I said, they were, oh, how was your delivery? And I made a comment about it. And, Crest Direct was good a few years ago when they came up with those reusable bags, which now you don't give them back because of COVID and everything. But in the meantime, it's absurd. It's absurd. I recycle. I've been doing recycling since I'm like 10. And it's ridiculous. And with all the deliveries going on, perhaps, an organization, a company like Fresh Direct would listen to more from somebody like yourself.
I would like to speak to them about that. That's awful.
I'll forward you the photos.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all. I just wanted to throw that out there. And it increases the recycle. You're talking about recycling, the one-use plastic bags. What about a one-use cardboard box? It serves no function. My container of cream cheese could be thrown in the bag with everything else. It doesn't need to be in a separate box.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to them about that. That's not cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, Eric, thank you.
That was a good question, Diana. Thank you. Because I get Fresh Direct too. I mean, Hello Fresh, and I wondered what they do with those ice bags and the foil that comes in the box, and nobody comes back to pick those things up. Some delivery service come back and pick up, the reusable bags, but they don't.
Can I say one other thing as far as Fresh Direct, from what you from what you're saying, Lana? As far as the Fresh Direct bags, the ones you used to give back to the driver, but they're not doing that. They collect them at the food pantry at the church on 13th and 7th. They use them there. So you can save them if you have a collection. You can drop them off at the red door entrance on the side. And they use them to distribute food to their clients.
Great. Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Eric. Nice to see you.
Too.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just tuned in a few minutes ago. I completely missed your talk. I apologize for
It was
that.
brilliant.
I'm sure it was Academy Award winning. Sorry, but I don't know if this was something that you talked about at all. The maintenance budget for the Parks Department's been cut, and I'm wondering, is there any way that sanitation can, like pick up the slack or get involved with that? Because the parks are such a mess. It's such a huge problem.
I wonder if Marissa, I know Marissa Yanni is coming up next. I wonder if she could opine on that. That has been the purview of the Parks Department, I believe. But I would like to look into that more. And also, I'd like to find out what our Parks Committee Chair, Shekhar Krishnan, says about that, because they're asking for a big, and I support it, a increase in funding for the Parks Department.
Right, 1% of the budget.
Yeah, but I agree with you about the parks, especially with all the usage they're getting. So I'm gonna look into that.
Thanks. Yeah, if you could let me know, I'd be curious.
Sure.
Thanks.
Well, I can't thank you enough for having me tonight. Thank you, Luana. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Eric.
Could we take a photo before I go? I'm gonna take a screenshot.
Of course.
Let me see here. So everyone get ready and wave. Oh, wait, I pushed the wrong button. Keep waving, don't stop. Got it.
Thank you so much, Eric, for your time. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Bye,
There's so
everyone.
many more things we could talk about, but I
Yeah.
appreciate what we did talk about.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good evening. We'll be sending
Bye.
you some questions through your assistant. So
Thank
look
you.
forward to it.
Thanks. Bye.
Enjoy your evening and thanks again.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, next up we have our Department of Sanitation Manhattan liaison, Ms. Marissa Yanni, with us, who will talk about some of the sanitation initiatives. She will also be sharing her screen with us on some things she'd like to present. So with no further ado, Ms. Marissa Yanni. Also, we would like you to hold your questions to the end of her presentation. We will still allow the 2-minute time limit, providing we have enough time for questions. And thank you. Marissa, you're on.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm just gonna quickly, I have a super short presentation just because it makes life easier for you to see what I'm talking about, because it just looks a bit nicer. Can everyone see that on the screen? Okay, I see a head nod, that's perfect. Okay, just a couple of quick updates from the Department of Sanitation. So first, my name is Marissa Yanni. I am the Manhattan Community Liaison, so excited to be invited and to be here tonight. I was asked to give an update in our curbside composting program. So currently the program is still limited to those 7 original districts that we expanded to before we had to do the pause. Brooklyn 1, 2, 6, and 7, Manhattan 6 and 7, which sadly does not include Chelsea, and Bronx 8. Expansion is still on pause. I think we really are waiting till July 1st to see what the budget is when it's passed. So I apologize for that. People can still sign up and via our website, nyc.gov/curbside composting, just to show where the interested districts are. Definitely CB4, where you all are in, was definitely pretty much the next district that was going to receive the program, the service, until we got that pause. We also offer some free weekly webinars on how you can make compost work in your building and how you can make your own compost in your home. I know that might seem kind of odd, but you can totally do that. And our Master Composter Certificate course, which gives you a nice certificate and tells you how you can make your own compost. I know some folks in Manhattan may not have the room for that, but if you are part of a community garden or anything like that, it might be worth looking into. We do have our food scrap drop-off sites. This is a list of them in Chelsea. On our website, we actually have the full list. I didn't add all the ones outside of Chelsea, but in Community Board 4, there are a few more that are accessible for everybody, but I just kind of kept it to this small, just kind of kept it to your neighborhood to give you an idea of how many there are and where they are. Definitely the times differ, and always look up before you go to a drop-off site what they accept. Some places don't accept dairy or meats, just to keep that in mind depending on what you're bringing over there. So just an update, Councilmember Botcher actually mentioned this already, but beginning July 5th, alternate side parking is going back to the original regulations and rules that we had before, basically what's actually on the sign. It was limited during the height of COVID when we started the pandemic, just so people didn't have to go outside as often to move their vehicle. We also weren't issuing any fines for people not moving. But we really see a reduction in cleanliness because of this. So definitely going back to twice a week, I think is going to make a really big difference in the neighborhood and in neighborhoods and streets. And a lot of folks we saw were not moving their vehicle because it's much cheaper to pay the fine if you are fined that day once a week than to pay monthly for a garage. So especially in Manhattan, where you most likely aren't going to have your own private garage or your own easement or a parking spot, it's definitely easier just to pay the fine once a week instead of paying for that garage. So we're hoping we'll see a bigger difference once that comes back on July 5th. And again, that's really tied to the budget. So we're looking forward to that actually coming back. Couple of pilots and new initiatives. So I think some folks have heard of this, but the Clean Curbs program, this is where private entities, kind of like the bids and commercial property owners and associations and alliances, they can buy a container and then they can put all the material in the container instead of having this commercial trash out on the waste. There are a lot of businesses, there's a lot of commercial corridors in your neighborhood specifically, right? I mean, on 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, even down to 10th Avenue, you have 23rd Street, 14th Street, just a lot of these commercial corridors. So it's really helpful for folks that want to do that. Also our waste management plan. So this is where this started April 1st. So any new developments or any existing developments that made some changes to their building plan that have 150 units or more have to submit a waste management plan to DSNY. This has never been asked for before by developers or building owners. It's really exciting. It's going to help developers think ahead of time of how they're going to manage their waste. A lot of times they're just building these buildings, people are moving in, and then they're looking around and the managers are like, oh, well, there's a lot of bags of garbage here. And all right, I guess we'll just put it out on the street, and not really thinking ahead of time during the design process how this is going to flow and what this is going to look like and how much space they have to house the garbage before it's put curbside, kind of calculating how many pounds of garbage they're going to have, how many people are going to be living in this building. So we're very excited to see this going live, and we're getting some applications, we're getting those plans, and we're very excited about that. And we're hoping soon we'll get enough and we can show some results to that and see how it's making an impact as well. So that is my little spiel. Again, here is my name. That is my email address. I'll also put it in the chat for those that need it. I'll leave this up for a minute. That 646 number is the community affairs line in my office. We go in and out of the field right now. Spring and summer is our busiest time. So for instance, I was out most of the morning. I was actually in your neighborhood. I was at Chelsea Park today. So definitely if you call that number, if you have any issues, someone in my office will pick up between the hours of 8 and 5 p.m. So if you have anything you need to ask us, we're definitely here to help. I'll leave this page up just for a couple of minutes as we take questions, just in case people want to write that down. But happy to answer any and all questions y'all have.
Thank you, Marissa. You really move quickly.
I'm sorry. I'm from Brooklyn. It's very hard not to.
That
I'm
is
so
such
sorry.
a New York, that is a New York presentation, if I say so myself.
I don't want to waste anyone's time. I'm sorry.
No problem. Breathe. Wow, there's so much you squeezed in there. So if I see somebody has a question so far. Tristan?
Hi, thanks so much for coming in and presenting. Can you provide an update on the current status of the commercial waste zone program's implementation and what the updated timeline looks like? I know, the pandemic caused quite a bit of delays in that, but curious to see what the current state of that is.
Yeah, so the RFP actually went out for that, and we're just waiting to get more of those proposals because we're divvying up the city into those 10 zones. So we're trying to see which organizations, which businesses are going to take on those. It's from the timeline that I saw by the fall, we should have, oh goodness, I literally saw this just the other day. I was looking at it and now I don't have it in front of me. I believe in the fall, we will have that updated timeline. Actually, the second, you know what I'll do? I'll have people keep asking questions. I'm going to put it in the chat for you. Is that okay? I just need to check my email. I just need to stop sharing my screen so I can do that. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. And also just curious about what the like response rate or number of RFPs that were provided to you.
Oh, that I do not know. That came through another office. We actually have a commercial waste zone office unit that's taking care of all that. So that I'm not exactly sure how many we have, but I can give you the timeline.
Perfect.
So I will do that in the next few minutes, but I'll still answer questions.
Thank you. Next is Phyllis. You're mute. There you go. There you go. Getting better.
Right. Practice makes perfect. My question concerns the dates, the days of the week and the time for the food scrap container. There's like 5 or 6 in the area. And I tend to go to 24th and 8th, but I don't even know when they close. And the 2 others, I really don't want to go to Hudson River Park because I do not want to go across that traffic. The cars, okay, they'll stop for the traffic lights, the bikes will not. And it's like, I got to run across that street with bags. No. So I still want to know what their days and times are.
If you follow the link I just put in the chat, you'll be able to find that out. I put the map.
Oh, okay.
And all you do is just zoom into the ones that you want and they tell you the date and time.
Okay, because the one that's really in the area is only 1 morning a week. That's it.
Yeah, some of them are a little limited. They're hosted by our partners. So I can't can't make them do more than they're already doing.
Okay.
And I'm now, no problem. Sorry, just to get back to Tristan's questions, I'm right now putting in the timeline that I currently have for the commercial waste zone program. So that next bit of text in there is that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. The next is Bert.
Yeah, just as a side, Phyllis, I use the container on 11th Avenue and 23rd Street, and that's usually open from 8 in the morning to 7 at night, 7 days a week. Just for your information. But in terms of composting, Marissa, if money is restored, I know it's a big if, and we've got a lot of negotiations between now and the June adoption of the budget. But if there is money restored, will we go back to the schedule where Community Board 4, Chelsea and Hell's Kitchen, will be the next area to do composting? I know my building, London Terrace, is beginning to make plans for composting within the building and doing its own system, but it'd be great if it was coordinated with something externally.
Yeah, that is something so yeah, it all depends on the budget. I don't know if we're gonna go back to the district by district plan that we were originally doing. If
Okay.
all of a sudden, knock on wood, we get the money and they're like, it's gonna be universal and the plan's gonna go through and everyone's gonna get to do it, then that won't be an issue. We won't be fighting it out
Yep.
to see who gets it next.
Mhm.
But I will say, if we go back to that original model that we started last summer, I guess it was now, then yes, I believe CB4 would definitely be next.
Okay.
100%. I saw those numbers. You all were next in line. If another district was ahead of you, then I'm sure we would expand it to 2.
Thank you.
And you would definitely be next. So I apologize. We just have to see what that funding looks like. And the commissioner, the assistant commissioner for Bureau of Recycling Sustainability, she'll have to make that call, and the commissioner, and see what plan we're going to go with. That makes the most sense.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Bert. The next person is Kathy.
Thank you, Luana. Thank you, Marissa, for your presentation. Much appreciated. This is not my question, but I just want to mention, there used to be the truck. I don't know if they still come on the corner of 23rd Street and 8th Avenue, like 2 mornings a week to pick up composting. I don't know if they still do it. Since the pandemic, I've been doing my own composting at home. But my question actually is about recycling. I know that a lot of packaging doesn't get recycled because it's too contaminated. If people were to just like wash out their cans and bottles or whatever, wouldn't that make or increase the sorry, I have a concussion. It's hard for me to think.
No
But
worries.
wouldn't it make it materials more conducive to being recycled? And if that's the case, then can that be somehow included in your messaging to the public about recycling? I mean, what does it take to, wash out a can? It's like if you're washing dishes, what's one more thing? In my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely something we mention to folks all the time, that if they can rinse it out, they can wash out their material, it's great. If they can't, it's totally fine, and they can still put that in their recycling. If you don't wash out your milk carton, it's totally fine, or like the jug, it's fine. You could still recycle that material. Whenever we do get to be in front of an audience and let them know that is definitely mentioned.
But I know from Sims, who actually processes the recycling for the city, if it's too contaminated, if there's too much like food stuff left in the container, it doesn't get recycled. So that really should be, in my opinion, part of the the basic messaging that's put out to people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Maybe that's something we'll need to amp up when we talk more about recycling. We do a lot of social media posts as often as possible. So I'll talk and see if we can add something. We recently did a recycling post, so maybe there's something else we can say about making sure you rinse out your recycling material and those plastics and whatnot, and that way it's better for Sims. Sims does technically have to take everything we give them, because they're contracted, but you're right. If it is too dirty, I don't know if they have the capacity to sit there and clean all these materials that's coming into them. That's a great point. I'm going to take that back to the team. Thank you.
They don't. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Marissa. So if there's no other questions, I have a couple of questions, Marissa, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So what I noticed that you said these certain neighborhoods have gotten assistance from the sanitation department, but what makes the determination? What factors go into determining whether or not there's composting in a neighborhood, there's recycling services from the sanitation? what goes into that determination by the Department of Sanitation? Because we have so much development here and we have so many high rises here in Chelsea in Community Board 4. And I'm surprised that they took away the services from us and we no longer have them. So I wondered what was the determining factor in not including them.
The only,
Board 4.
yeah, the only service that everyone doesn't have is just the curbside composting. Everyone gets recycling pickup, everyone gets their garbage pickup. That is the same throughout. For the curbside composting that was cut through a previous budget, through a previous fiscal year. And then when we brought it back, we wanted to bring it back where there was the most need. So we went just via signups. The more households that signed up, or building managers that signed up, those were the first ones that got the service restored to them. So we had a lot of folks in Manhattan who were signing up, but they weren't the building manager, for instance. They were a resident and their building might have had, 400 units, but if they weren't the head of the building, if they weren't the manager, if they weren't the super, we couldn't count that. You know what I mean? We couldn't count that as part of the tally.
So what if they were like us at Penn South, they were co-op, or they were a private residential luxury building? Who would the contacts be in order to get that done?
Right, it would have to be the building manager or the building super,
Okay.
not just a resident.
So I noticed that during the pandemic, prior to the pandemic, we had a recycling program here at Penn South and a composting program where we had little baskets and we would take out compost down and they would put it in, we would put it in the composting basket. But I noticed that during the pandemic, everybody now again is like throwing all their garbage together in one bag, and sometimes just taking a bag and throwing it downstairs in the recycling area or the garbage area. And I wanted to know your thoughts as to how we can reignite the passion for that recycling here in our residences.
Well, we're happy to do a presentation with the residents of Penn South. Definitely, regardless, pandemic or not, everyone should have been recycling this whole
Right,
time. And
exactly.
that the building management should have always had those other bins. There should always have been, even if they had to get rid of the compost, there should have been 3 bins for trash, green recycling, and blue recycling.
We still have that.
Okay, well, that's good. That's really good. But if people are still not separating it, we can definitely come talk to folks, kind of teach them the basics again and reignite that fire.
Yes, because I find that is so, I just feel like they just lost the enthusiasm and just think that they're just throwing the garbage and they don't understand where this garbage is going. Also, I don't know if this is something that you can speak about, but we were talking about the recycling of the plastic bottles, and there's still some controversy over the recycling of the plastic, and not only the recycling of the plastic, maybe also including the toxic chemicals that are used to recycle the plastic. So does the Department of Sanitation have any information on recycled plastic?
No, nothing specific like that. Just like if you have any plastic, it should go you should recycle it. I may not understand your question.
Well, we were talking about the water bottles, that some of the water bottles, and there have been some ads on television in terms of the water bottles being recycled. And we're talking about the caustic chemicals that are included in the recycling process of those water bottles and how they may affect people's health. So I was wondering, does the sanitation department have any information on the recycled plastic?
No, not at this time. Not about anything that has additional chemicals. No.
Okay, all right. So if there are no other questions from the panelists. Oh, Kathy, you still have your hand up, or is just, or you have another question?
Thanks, Luana. Actually, it's not a question. I was going to make a suggestion just in response to what you were talking about. I know that some plastics do contain bisphenol A, which is it is a toxic chemical, BPA's, and like buying a water filter for your kitchen faucet would certainly eliminate the need to buy bottled water, and that would reduce the number of bottles, because I don't know if Eric mentioned this earlier, but only about 8 or 9% of our recyclables actually get recycled. Everything else ends up either in the landfill or incinerators, which of course both of them are heavily polluting. So, there are ways for people to reduce how much plastic they consume. And as we know, they found plastic, microplastics in placentas, in pregnant women. And I mean, it's all in our bodies. It's everywhere. And yes, exactly. Thank you, Joanne. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, what I was thinking of is that if these plastics are going into the landfill and they've been recycled and the chemical composition has changed, it would affect our climate, our environment, and our health. That's what I was thinking along those lines.
You're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. That's why I was suggesting, to reduce how much plastic we consume.
Yeah, and I was wondering if the sanitation department had taken that into consideration. Well, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Marissa. I appreciate your time and your share with us and all your information. That was so helpful. And we have a copy also of your website that you put up, and the additional information. We'll probably be reaching out to your teams in terms of getting more training and more presentation. So I want to thank you so much for coming to our presentation tonight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, everybody. Anything you need, please let me know. Email me any other questions, and have a beautiful night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Hey, baby girl.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay. So that was good presentation for sanitation. We learned a lot today, short but sweet. So we don't have some of our execs here, but we do have Charles Bear. Charles, would you like to speak on any subject before we leave? You're on mute, Charles.
Of course. I want to be your first event. Well, actually, your second one, you did the Black History, but this was very good. Your first general event. Thank you. I just want to fill in everybody about the political material that came out this week. Today, the state Senate lines came out, and there is a completely new state Senate line. You all know that Brad Hoylman is not running for state Senate. He's running for Congress in the new congressional district below 14th Street. It's the new 10th congressional district. And there's a new state Senate district that goes now from 100th Street down to 14th Street, encompassing from 8th Avenue to the river, basically. And the first announced candidate for that race is Scott Stringer. Of course, there may be many more, but this is just at the beginning. So those lines will be all verified tomorrow. There's probably no changes in any of the lines. And we're going to be, unfortunately, faced with the prospect of Jerry Nadler, Carol Maloney primary fight, which is not the most uncomfortable place to be in. But that's the way it's going to be now. Does anybody have any questions about the political situation as it affects us? This is all for the yeah, go ahead, Luana.
Well, how does it affect us and our
Sorry, I don't hear you muted. Luana, you're muted.
I got to do it one time. Get to say I'm muted. Thank you. It's the simple things in life that bring me joy. So, how does this affect our club? Are we gonna have to petition
Well,
again, campaign
we're gonna
again?
have, yeah, we're gonna have to, it's, remember, this is an August primary. There's still a June primary for the state offices and for the judicial candidates and for the assembly candidates. The August primary will be for the state senators for the Congress. In fact, we won't have to, I understand we won't have to collect petitions for the congressional candidate because both the candidates have already collected petitions. But we will have to collect petitions for the new state senate district. Whomever the club endorses will be the candidate that we collect petitions for.
Do we have any candidates that are running for Senate in our district?
Not that I know of, but it just was announced today. You can be sure there'll be many candidates coming out of the woodwork. It always happens.
So tomorrow will be the day that Mindy, tomorrow will be the day that we're supposed to get the final redistricting
Official.
results.
I've been so hoping that someone would just throw a wrench in it because I'm gonna use a polite term, it's a circus. Because the way that it is now, I'm cut out of 12. I'm in 10. So that means, yes, and I'm also cut out of assembly.
No,
And
you're not cut out of the congressional district because that goes to 14th Street.
no, it doesn't. It's jagged. I sent you guys
Yeah, you did.
I
Yeah.
didn't notice that. Okay.
And that
Yeah.
includes you? Wow.
Yeah, I get cut out of that. But
I
I'm
didn't-
just gonna make an early recommendation. This is not something we're gonna vote on. But since this does affect some people in the club based on where they live, and also with two titans facing off against each other, it's gonna be my recommendation that we don't endorse for that. We
Well-
don't want to split, we don't want a divided club or whatever. I mean, this is gonna look like a modern East versus West.
It's
you
too
know.
early. It's too early for that, Mindy.
I know, like I said, I just was putting it out there,
We
but I
have
don't
to
think we should
see where it
divide.
goes, discuss it, and see what happens. You know,
So when you say that you'll be lined out, so to speak, what does that mean for your participation for those people that are lined out by the redistricting? What does that mean for the participation
Because
in the club?
Oh,
Mindy,
yeah,
I'm
Tom's
lined out
also-
also, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you, Tom, and Sylvia, yeah.
I
Mhm.
think Roberta as well, the way it is, all depending where she is on the block, I'm not sure.
no, I
But,
have. That's for the congressional district you're talking about, right?
and as assembly.
Assembly
both.
Assembly, I
also,
know
yeah.
about. Assembly, I
Mhm.
know about.
The
But the
congressional, yes, I'm in 10. So
So
that
what does
means,
that mean for us?
Interesting. I
Right,
didn't-
that's what I want to know.
well, when it comes to voting, I mean, we would vote in the 10th. As for us being in the club, is that what you were asking, the club
Yes.
or voting?
Mhm.
I believe it should still be fine. I mean,
You
because
can
I
belong
think
to any club you want to. You don't have to live in a district. You don't have to live necessarily in the club district to be a member of the club.
yes, but like since I'm exec VP, it may
Exactly.
be an issue moving forward because I may be considered out of district based on the Constitution. So we have to,
Well, but right now, the Constitution doesn't deal with that. Right now, it's.
right, so then I guess right now, fine, but still, but those of us that are on 14th or 15th, I mean, it just means that when we go to vote, it's for those. So that means we'll see Brad go against de Blasio if he gets that far, because de Blasio now is thinking about putting his hat in for the 10th district.
I'm sorry, y'all.
He loves to get abused. I mean, really, what at this
Well,
point?
He must.
It's
He
an
must.
inflated ego, basically. That's what it is, an inflated ego.
Wow.
I
But
see Kathy
I
has
have
her hand up.
to, I have to take a more careful look at that congressional lines. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the email. I took a screenshot.
No, I know you did. And,
Yeah,
I
she
did-
did a
I
great
did-
job. So I
But,
see Kathy and Phyllis have it. Kathy, was your hand still up or are you asking a question?
Thanks, Luana. I have a question about the whole redistricting and how that affects the club. So with the new lines that are drawn, does that mean that, say, like Sylvia would not be able to be our district leader
That's
moving
correct.
forward?
Yes.
And, you know, anybody wanting to run for judicial delegate or whatever has to be in this district to do it through the club,
Not
right?
for judicial delegate, not for
Not
judicial.
the judicial delegates, I think, are fine at this point, right? Because they're.
No, judicial delegate, you can live outside the district to run to judicial delegate. District leader, you have to live within the assembly district.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And as far as like positions in the club, there's nothing in the Constitution that says you have to live within the
Nothing else.
boundaries?
Nothing Kathy at all.
I didn't see
Okay.
anything, but I have it here. While I look at Phyllis.
I wanted to know, Jerry Nadler at the beginning of the week said that what was happening with the redistricting and a fight between him and Carolyn Maloney was contrary to the state constitution. And he was going to explore looking into stopping this. And I wonder if anything came of that.
No, nobody's filed anything yet regarding this, and there's no, the state court of appeals okayed this redistricting the process. So it would have to go, they tried to go into federal court and they were rejected in federal court. So I don't know where else they can go.
But I thought they had
The
another
other thing-
lawsuit. Yeah. Sorry, Phyllis, I'm sorry.
Well, the other thing is I would like to see the club send out a notice after it's official tomorrow as to, the congressional, the state senate, and, what the boundaries are. Because this is very confusing.
I think that's fair enough.
Well, absolutely. We were waiting until we got a decision tomorrow in order to send out
I
information.
think that's fair enough, Phyllis.
We have
Oh,
meeting. I'm sorry, go ahead. You said something, Phyllis?
Charles said that what I was saying was fair. My request was fair.
Oh, yes.
And I knew it had to be after tomorrow.
Right.
After,
Right.
But then I would like to see something.
Of course, we're gonna see something. We're gonna have a discussion on it. I mean, it's a major thing, so it's something that we have to talk about. And we have to have a meeting on. So, yes, bring everybody together once we know.
Okay.
So, Mindy,
Thank you.
I see
Wait,
Tristan.
Yeah, Tristan has his hand up.
Hey, yeah, so I was just thinking too, in terms of like planning ahead, if the districts stay as they are, do we all envision we're gonna have like another endorsement meeting to discuss who to endorse for like in a Caroline Nadler match off and other, competitive races?
Yes,
Yeah, we would, but it's,
absolutely, we'd have to.
If it's, okay, but as you said, Mindy, the suggestion is that we would abstain from voting, right?
No, but that's something that's
Endorsing.
right. That's just my opinion.
But it's up to the
Something
club
vote.
altogether. We have to
Right,
bring it
that's
to
the
the club and vote on that, so.
that's a whole discussion by itself.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. That's my opinion. That's all.
Well, I mean, they both have supported our community so long, and they're like, it's like brother and sister. Now you're separating the brother and sister, and we have to decide which is better, the brother or the sister. That's really, it puts us in a terrible spot.
It's not the first time this thing happened where
I mean,
incumbents.
it was bad enough when one was on 9th Avenue and one was on 8th, but at least we can do both. But now it's like we can't do either,
No.
I mean, it's either or, neither nor, right?
But in many cases throughout the state under new redistricting, there are many incumbents that are thrown into districts together. So it's going to be, it's not only here, it's pretty prevalent throughout the state where you have incumbents fighting each other.
So you think there's a possibility they'll throw the whole thing out
No,
and restore the lines to what they were?
no, never going to happen.
I don't know. But I see that somebody still has a lawsuit out there. Does it matter?
For why, for this, not for the, there was a lawsuit for the assembly that's been knocked out.
Right, not that.
Acted also, and there is no lawsuit left. I mean, they've tried every avenue and it's not happening.
Wow.
Tomorrow, the alliance become official. There will be the alliance for the next 10 years.
Wow.
According to, yeah, I know, right, Mindy, but that's the way it is. That's the
I
very,
know.
we just,
Wow.
My opinion, it
Yes.
stinks.
yeah,
I mean, but the problem is we Democrats did this to ourselves.
I agree. We
Like,
did.
who thought of this? Our own people undermined us.
Well, because we, the line, there was.
So that
trouble
would
with
mean
previous
that
ones.
we would have to petition again if we have
Just for the
right?
station,
We have to
just-
campaign again. We have to do all the footwork all over again.
Right, but we'll have to only petition for the state senate. And
It's
not
still a
for,
lot.
yeah, it will be a lot, no question about that.
Okay, so is there anything else on this topic that anybody else has any more questions? Our next exec meeting is the June 2nd, unless there, of course, something's gonna come up after tomorrow, as we said, Phyllis, so we'll probably be hearing us from before then, June 2nd. Now, I have to bring this to the executive board, but Charles, we're all going away in June. So I'm going to submit a proposal for our June forum, which Charles is moderating. It's the LGBTQ forum. And we're going to
Pride
ask
Month.
for another day. What is the day that you had suggested?
Well, because unfortunately, the same night as our usual night, which would be the 16th of June, Thursday, Stonewall Democrats are having their annual affair, and everybody I spoke to was going to Stonewall and will not be available for CRDC. So I spoke to Luana about it, and we decided with everybody moving it to Tuesday the 14th, and we'll have a pride event.
So we'll bring that up on the June 2nd meeting at the exec to discuss and
Right.
get a
Right.
vote
But
on.
meanwhile, I've asked people about the 14th and getting some commitments,
Okay. Well, tomorrow when we wake up, we'll see what happens, everybody.
Luana,
Yes,
I just wanted to say that, we'll be volunteering on Saturday.
thank you, Tom.
I worked well with everyone. They called me, I signed them up. Evelyn, Joanne, Charles, it went really well, and looking forward to seeing everybody on Saturday, and we'll just keep it going. And it was great that it was in the newsletter, and it all went well. So we'll see everybody.
It should be a lot of.
That's
it should be
great.
Nice events, Tom.
Tom, I said, oh man, I love, because I do the outreach and the city harvest and the home, and I was like, no more.
No,
One day I'm gonna sign up to join you as well. Right now I got a lot on my plate, so thank you. We're gonna always put it in, just let us know. We're always gonna put it in the newsletter so people will continue rotate and you get
Okay,
volunteers.
great.
Okay, so
All
that
right.
is something that I'm very passionate about. So
Yeah.
I'm so happy about that. So congratulations. I'm glad people responded.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Luana. Thank
So
you.
that's it for tonight.
I
Yeah.
think that's a
Good
Good night,
wrap.
everybody.
Okay.
Good night,
everybody. Thank
Good
you
night.
and have a
I
great
guess I'll
evening.
see you. It's gonna be outside the community thing. It's gonna be very hot too.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you, Mindy.
You're welcome.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Have
That's
a
my
good
birthday
evening.
next week.
Thank you, Charles.
Happy early
Okay,
birthday.
Bert,
Yeah.
I heard you got a little
Okay.
mixed up the other day.